Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us this evening for our family information series. Our topic tonight is going to be stable accounts, and our presenter is going to be Mr. Doug Jackson. He's a Deputy Director for Stable Accounts with the Office of the Ohio Treasurer of State. Mr. Jackson has been dedicated to the field of developmental disabilities for over 20 years and works with a passion to serve people with disabilities and their families through improving the support system and the support staff. Doug's experience includes managing the services of a direct support agency, executive administration in Ohio's county's Board of DD system, teaching human services classes at Wright State University, and guiding a state-operated developmental center as the superintendent. Doug joined the Office of the Ohio Treasurer of State to help administer Ohio's stable accounts, a financial plan for people with disabilities. So, Mr. Jackson, we want to welcome you this evening. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening to spend with us to help explain stable accounts. And we're ready to go.
All right. Thank you for the introduction, George. And I'm looking at the participant list, and we've got a good crowd on here to talk to. As I present tonight, I just want to let you know that I am open to interruptions. Of course, you're on mute, so there would have to be some initiation on your part to interrupt us. I believe Ashley is going to be watching the chat feature, so if you want to chat in there and let me know that you have a question, she can interrupt or type your question in there. That would be fine, because I believe, and Ashley, you can confirm this, that they will be able to unmute themselves if needed to interrupt and have a conversation with me.
Yes, they absolutely can.
All right, so I am going to be opening up a presentation. Give me just a second. Let me share my screen, and I'll make sure that you can see it as it gets shared. Okay. Hold on one moment. I'm having a pause on my end. Apologize for that, but I'm not worried. It will come up. We are in the technology age, and I stopped worrying about how these things work. The longer I've used technology, the more I realize that sometimes you got to just juggle a few things. Sorry for the delay, everybody. Well, my computer is spinning for just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself as I work on this. So again, my name is Doug Jackson, and I work with the Stable Account Program. But as the introduction, which was read about my background, had stated, I've worked with people with disabilities for over 20 years, including working for a county board of DD. And so that was experience that helps me to understand how stable account changes lives. So stable account is something that is a solution to a problem that we know exists. That solution would be that people have money, people with disabilities and without disabilities, but when you are a person with a disability, you are always concerned about how much money you have. So that how much is typically compared to the $2,000 resource limit. Where does the $2,000 resource limit come from? Well, public benefit programs like Medicaid and SSI have that resource limit. And that resource limit says that if you exceed it, your public benefits are in jeopardy in some way. Maybe it's just for a month. Maybe it's by no longer being eligible if you have too much money. And there's some solutions to that problem. But before stable account was around, one of the common solutions was spending down money. So in live audiences, I always like audience participation, raising your hand, letting me know if you've ever had to do something like that. But spending down money is something that many families have had to do, which to me just made me scratch my head and wonder what I was doing when I was helping people with disabilities when I first started my career, to go out and buy things that they didn't need. Because what we would do is look at their bank account. When there was too much money, we would go out and spend it down. We would just purchase things like a big screen television, a recliner chair, more bedroom furniture. something to make sure that their resources came back below $2,000. And I was always told that that needed to happen because if there was more than $2,000, the supports that they needed in their life, those Medicaid funded supports like homemaker personal care, transportation, or day programming would go away. And so we knew that that couldn't happen because the person needed those supports. So we played the game and we spent down money. One other possible solution was people hid money. Now, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand on that one because you're not supposed to hide money. But we know that it happened, right? I was aware that this was happening. Families would maybe put money of their child with a disability into the parent's bank account and then track it and even use it for the child. They weren't trying to be dishonest. They just didn't want to lose their public benefits. Sometimes a person would hide the money under a bed mattress or put it in their freezer, or just do something so that it wasn't in a bank account that counted towards that $2,000. Well, Stable Account provides a solution to that. So I know that we have not yet pulled up the PowerPoint presentation, and I apologize because of that. Give me just one more second. My computer, for some reason, is still spinning. Well, good thing I know the material. So I am going to continue to go and talk about Stable Account without the PowerPoint right now. I will continue to work on bringing that up, but I again apologize, and we'll get that up here as soon as possible. So what a Stable Account is, I want to go back a little bit and talk about some acronyms I'm going to be using, because you're used to being in the disability community. You're very used to acronyms, right? We have DD and ISPs and just all the acronyms that are there. So for Stable Account is actually an acronym, but it comes from the federal legislation called Achieving a Better Life Experience, ABLE. So you will oftentimes hear me talk about ABLE accounts. That's the general accounts that are made possible by federal legislation. And then you will also hear me talk about Stable Accounts. Stable Accounts is Ohio's brand of an ABLE account. So Ohio created an ABLE account and we brand named it Stable Account. The ST actually stands for State Treasurer. So there's a secret. Most people don't know that, but it kind of fit in very well with stable. It also allows people to have that stability in their life by having some financial independence. But we call Ohio's ABLE program Stable Accounts. So Stable Accounts are administered by the Ohio Treasurer's Office. We started our first account on June 1st, 2016. So we've been around for over 5 years now. We now have we're right around 26,000 people participating in the Stable Account program. That's pretty amazing when you think about the number of lives that we've been able to change, that many people that are able to save more than the $2,000 resource limit and keep their public benefits. So the Stable Account program serves more people than just Ohio residents. That's also a little known fact, but we are a national ABLE program. That's important because the more people that use the program, the more each participant benefits, because we can have things like a reduction in the amount of fees that are collected from the participants. On July 6th, we actually had a 25-cent reduction to the monthly cost for Stable Accounts. Went down to $2.25 per month. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but that's just an example of the more people that participate, the better options and the better power we have to negotiate with the things that we need to do to make the program possible. So it's a great success story that Ohio was the first ABLE program in America. Ohio is the largest or most used ABLE program in America. And we serve people in all 50 states of the United States. So that's pretty fun as well. But Ohio itself has more people participating in our ABLE account program than any other state has in any other ABLE program. So that's also something neat for Ohio to be proud of. But as we look at the Stable Account program, what it allows people to do is save money, invest it if they choose, and use it when they need to. So we look at some other financial tools as examples of what a Stable Account program is. The Stable Account program is much like a 529 college savings account, because the college savings account allows you to save for the future and have tax benefits. Well, a Stable Account also lets you save for the future and has tax benefits. For Ohio residents, you can take the same tax benefit as somebody contributing to a 529 college savings account. So that's up to a $4,000 state tax deduction for contributions made into a stable account. That's pretty great for the purpose of just tax incentives, tax planning. But most people are more concerned about, how do I use my money? Well, the stable account is also transactional. That means that it's like a checking account, because you can access the funds when you need them. You don't have to wait. They're available to you at the time of need. We'll talk about the spending methods, how to get that money out in just a little while. But one other financial tool that it is much like is a special needs trust. So many people have heard of special needs trusts, a very powerful tool, but there's similarities and there's differences between a stable account and a special needs trust. And we'll spend some time talking about that as well. So I'm going to try again to pull up my screen because I am still unable to see that. And because I'm in presentation mode, I can't get into a task mode either to change that out. So I'm going to keep talking, and if things change and I can get into that, I will certainly be getting into the PowerPoint. So one of the things that we like people to know about stable account is that the person who can use a stable account is the person with a disability. That is unique because people with disabilities oftentimes have other people managing their funds. And stable account is an account that the person with a disability can manage themselves if they have the ability to do that. Now, it doesn't mean that they have to be the one managing it, but it's an account that does have access, or the person with a disability does have access to it. And we're very proud of that because it creates an ability for people with disabilities to have independence, to have control over their money. And we like working in that way. Now, for somebody who cannot control their own account, there is a list of other people that could manage the account for them. Somebody managing the account for a person with a disability would be called an authorized legal representative. So an authorized legal representative currently is a parent, a guardian, or a power of attorney. So parent, guardian, or power of attorney. But that definition is actually expanding, and it will also include a sibling, a grandparent, a spouse, or a representative payee. So we're very happy that the federal regulations have expanded to allow more people to assist individuals with a need to manage a stable account. So for the county board employees, especially, understanding that a representative payee is one of those categories that can manage a stable account, that's very important. But if the person with a disability can manage it themselves, again, they have the complete ability to do so. We have 1/3 of our participants are managing their own account. Pretty proud of that because, again, that states how many people are involved in their own finances. But 2/3 are being managed by an authorized legal representative. So there are some limits on how much money you can put in. But I use that word limit very cautiously because the limits are very high. For people that are saving money, whether you're a person with a disability or a person without a disability, these limits are far greater than the $2,000 resource limit that is in place for public benefits. So on an annual basis, so every year you could put in up to $15,000 of general contributions into a stable account. $15,000 each year. So that goes by calendar year. So in 2021, if you opened a stable account today, you could still put in $15,000 between now and December 31st. Then on January 1st of the next year, 2022, you could put in another $15,000. So each year, year after year, saving $15,000. Now, if the person with a disability is working, more money can go into the stable account. It's called able to work and allows their own earned wages to go in above and beyond the $15,000. So that able to work amount is equal to the federal poverty line. So I know that I'm using a lot of terms in here: federal poverty line, able to work. But what that means is if they're working, they can put in an additional $12,760. So total between general contributions and earned wages, $25,760 worth of savings. They call it a limit. It's a very high amount. You can understand that most people aren't concerned by that because, again, whether you have a disability or not, saving that much money is a tremendous amount of savings. Now, there is also a lifetime balance limit. The account can currently go up to $501,000. It's over $500,000, and you can maintain almost all of your public benefits. There's only one public benefit that has a lower amount, but almost all of your public benefits could be maintained at $501,000 worth of savings. Now, how do you get to that much? You get to that much by putting in money each year or throughout the year, but you also get to that amount by investing money. So investing is an option that Stable Account has. It's not something that you have to do. Some people, when they hear investments, they kind of get a little anxious about it. Like, I don't know about investments. I don't want to invest. Well, don't worry. You don't have to invest in Stable Account. You can use the feature that we call Bank Safe option. It's just like a savings account. In fact, it is a savings account. It's going to earn some interest, but let's be honest, savings accounts don't earn a lot of interest. The Stable Account Bank Safe option is going to grow, but at the same rate that a savings account grows. So very minimal. But if you want to invest and have the opportunity to grow it more, we have 4 Vanguard mutual funds. So Vanguard as an investment option is a very well-known tool. Mutual funds are a mix of stocks and bonds, 4 different funds to choose from very conservative to more aggressive, depending on how much stock compared to how much bond you want to have. Now, if your eyes are glazing over about investments right now, don't worry, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about investments, but I just wanted to let you know that it's available to you. And because investments are available, some people are growing their account, even growing it so much that they are far exceeding the monthly maintenance fees, which again, we'll talk about in just a little bit. So investments can be good, but investments are in the market. So investments can go up and down, and that's where some people get very nervous about that. Because we're in a mutual fund, it's a little less aggressive than some other investment options, but you can choose, again, your risk tolerance and what type of investment you want to use in Stable Account. So about half of our funds are being just kept safeguarded in the savings account option. About the other half right now, the people who are choosing to invest are using those Vanguard mutual funds. So I see some questions popping up. Unfortunately, because of my computer screen, I can't get to that chat at all, even if I try. But Ashley, can you see those?
Yes, Mr. Jackson, you're fine. I was just going to wait for your one point, and then I was going to say, one asks, can you invest a brokerage account outside of Vanguard, or can you use funds to pay for a financial advisor?
Okay, so let's answer each question individually. So within Stable Account, the funds that are inside of Stable Account can only be invested in those 4 Vanguard mutual funds that we offer inside the account. So we don't use any other options outside of the account, nor can you take, blend it where you're using Stable Account funds with some other financial product. So it's maintained within there. The second is, can you use Stable Account to pay for the fees of investment advisory? And the answer to that would be yes, but you would be paying a bill that's outside of Stable Account. So let's say that you wanted a financial advisor to help you choose what investment option in Stable Account is best for you. And the financial advisor looks at the Stable Account offerings, the 4 Vanguard mutual funds. They help you determine which one is best suited for you. They charge you a fee to tell you that. Could you use your Stable Account to pay for that? The answer would be yes. So hopefully that answers those questions. But if there's follow-up, just jump on that chat and let me know. Okay. So funding the account can happen several different ways. The first way is that you could mail in a check. So many people still choose to bank with checking account options and mailing in checks for payments. That's fine. Our family still has a checkbook as well. And sometimes we prefer to write a check. If you write a check, of course, it has to be mailed someplace for that deposit to be made, because all of our stable account access is really controlled online once you create an account, you're logging into a user account, and then you can manage the stable account online. So if you're going to make a check payment, that check has to be mailed in. We have a PO box. That address would be given to you at the time you choose to mail a check, and you can put a stamp on it, mail it in. The check just has to have the individual's name and account number, stable account number written on it, so that we know which account to put it into. Otherwise, it goes into my account. I'm just kidding about that. Thanks, Maggie, for laughing. I don't get any extra funds for doing this presentation or helping anybody with this, but I do enjoy helping people save. The next way that you can get funds into the account is through what's called an electronic fund transfer. So that's a very fancy name for online banking. Let's say that the person with a disability has a checking account, but they know that that checking account can't go over $2,000, or again, they risk their Medicaid, their Social Security eligibility, whatever public benefit that you're concerned about. That checking account could be connected to the stable account by the checking account number and routing number. And then that checking account can send money to the stable account. So it's called an electronic funds transfer, but it's just shifting money from one account into the stable account. That works really well because oftentimes that's when people would spend down, right? Their checking accounts getting up to $1,800, $1,900, and they're thinking, oh no, I'm getting close to 2,000. Don't worry, you can shift over a little bit. You can shift over the whole amount right into the stable account. So electronic funds transfer is another way. A third way of getting money into the stable account is by what we call a payroll deduction. So payroll deduction is where an employer helps the employee send money from their paycheck into the stable account. So two different scenarios that this could be helpful for. Let's think about mom and dad are working, but they want to put some money into their child's stable account, whether that child's a minor, that child's an adult, it doesn't matter. They could take money from their paycheck and have it sent directly into the stable account. That's a great feature for parents who want to make sure that their child's stable account is growing. So sometimes we see parents do that because they want to grow it like they would grow a 529 college savings account. Maybe they have some children without a disability that have that college savings account. They're funding that college savings account for their child without a disability, but they want to fund the stable account for their child with a disability. Well, they could do that directly from their paycheck. We have information on our website to how to make that happen. So payroll deduction is the third way to get money in. We have a fourth way of getting money in. Some call it e-gifting. We call it a gifting page now. It's just like GoFundMe, which is a way for somebody to ask friends, family to make contributions towards a cause. So for us, that cause would be the stable account. And oftentimes people have a reason why they might want to accept a financial gift from friends or family. So think about birthdays, holidays, graduation. They could create this gifting page, send out a link to friends, family, whoever they want to email. The link can be used in social media, can be used as a text, it can be embedded into an email. However you want to get that link out to your friends, family, or whoever else. And whoever receives that email can click on that link and make a contribution into the stable account. So now you can have like aunts and uncles that want to give a birthday gift. They can give it right into the stable account. When something like graduation happens, so I know Maggie, Ashley as transition coordinators, you're oftentimes dealing with graduation. Number one gift for graduation, a financial gift, right? So that high school graduation comes, person with a disability doesn't have to be concerned about receiving a financial gift. They could send out a link to their gifting page, accept contributions right into their stable account. So again, great ways to get money into the account. Now, once the money is in the account, we want to make sure that people can get money out of the account. So oftentimes people think, well, great, now you've got my money. What's the catch? How do I get it out? How do I use it? We want to make sure that is easy also. So we provide several different ways to get money out of the account. The first way would be for you to log into the account and transfer the money from the stable account back to a personal checking or personal savings account. So let's say that personal checking account is the normal spending account. You want some money back into that checking account. You log into the stable, you transfer money back to the checking account. You now have it available in your checking account to spend it. Now, the only downfall to that way is the record keeping in the stable account shows the transfer of funds from the stable account to the checking account, but it doesn't show what the money was spent on afterwards. So the record keeping doesn't complete the loop. The next two ways of spending, all records are maintained within the stable account platform to show what every penny of the stable account was spent on. So the second way of spending money out of a stable account is to do what we call third-party bill paying. So you log onto the stable account, you tell us who needs paid, and we pay it for you. So it's a great way for expenses like rent. As a matter of fact, you can even set it up to pay automatically. So if rent is due every month and the landlord is the same every month, you could tell us on this date of the month, make this payment to this third party, the landlord, and the same amount every month, and we'll make that happen. So it's automated. It's an easy way to make that third-party payment. We're happy that that is a feature as well. Now, the last way of spending money from the stable account is probably our most popular feature. It is what's called a loadable debit card. So we call it the stable card. The stable card allows the person with a disability to have their own debit card with their name on it. They can carry around, spend it like other people spend money. I know if I look in my wallet, very little cash, if any. It's usually an expense being paid for by a card. So the person with a disability has this normal and usual way of spending money from their stable account by using a card. The beauty of the stable card is that the amount that is on the stable card, the amount that can be used, is controlled by the person managing the account. So let's say that it's mom or dad managing the stable account. They want their child to have access to some of the funds. They want their child to be able to go spend money from the stable account. But in this example, we'll say there's $10,000 in the stable account. Well, you probably don't want to hand a card that's worth $10,000 to your child with a disability, even if your child didn't have a disability. I don't want our daughter to have a card worth $10,000, but maybe I want her to have access to some of those funds. Well, because it's a loadable card, you can transfer funds from the stable account onto the card. And that is all the card has access to spending. So you're controlling how much you can spend, or that person with a disability can spend. So that loadable feature makes it very powerful because a team can decide what a monthly spending amount is for an appropriate amount of spending. Some would call that allowance. I don't really like the term allowance, but you get the idea. A monthly amount that can be spent, loaded onto the card. That's what they have access to. Looks like we have another question.
We do, Mr. Jackson. They said, how does this affect SSI or SSDI?
Great questions. So SSI, or what's known as Supplemental Security Income, is a program that is intended for food and housing. That's the reason why people receive SSI, is to be able to afford food and housing. Now, many people with disabilities, especially those without an income or with a small income from work, qualify for SSI. SSI has that resource limit, that $2,000 resource limit. SSDI does not have that resource limit. So that really SSDI is not impacted by the amount of money a person has. That's called Social Security disability income. And that amount is paid based on the person's disability or the disability of a family member, but not that it is not based on the $2,000 resource limit. So we'll talk about just SSI. So money in the stable account does not count towards the $2,000 resource limit. For SSI though, because it's for food and housing, they've said that if the stable account grows to be $100,000 or more, the amount over $100,000 is going to count towards that resource limit. Now, please don't panic because, again, who is going to use the stable account to save more than $100,000? We do have some people that are reaching that amount now. They've maximized how much they could put in every year. They've invested it. They're getting near that $100,000. Our average account balance after 5 years of serving people with disabilities is about $8,000. So really that $100,000 limit is not going to impact many people. But that is the limit that you can have in a stable account and still maintain your SSI. Money on the card, the stable card, is considered stable account money. It does not count towards that $2,000 resource limit either. And so therefore your SSI is not impacted by money in the account or on the card. So hopefully that answers the question about SSI and SSDI. I see it looks like Sylvia has a question. And she's trying to unmute. Is it possible for Sylvia to get unmuted, Ashley?
I have,
There
we go.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. On the first one, you mentioned transfer back. And then you said something about not being able to keep track of the money. What did you mean by that?
Sure, I'll provide some clarification.
Clean it out, take a show.
So the stable account has record keeping built into it. So it shows what money comes into it and it shows what money goes out of it. And for every expense that's paid from the stable account, you're going to have a transaction, a line item that says where the money went. The transaction for money leaving the stable account and going into a checking account is just going to show the funds being transferred, but it's not going to show the store where it was used or the items purchased or anything like that. So that's where record keeping would stop. That's what I was referring to is it's not complete record keeping because you don't know the what it was used for once it was in the checking account.
Well, like my agency would definitely keep track of that. But do we have to in turn report back to stable what it was used for?
That's a great question, Sylvia. So the stable account would be audited if it ever was. It would be audited through an IRS audit because it's a tax advantage program. So far, here's a trivia question for everybody. You probably don't know the answer. How many stable accounts have been audited by the IRS since we began in 2016? Any guesses?
None.
None. Zero. Somebody, I heard it. I see one typed in. The answer is zero. Now, that doesn't mean that the IRS is not going to audit ABLE accounts. So that would be any ABLE account, ours or any other state that has it. At some point, somebody will be audited, I guarantee. But the audit is done to make sure that the stable account is being used under its intended purpose and not being taken advantage of for tax purposes. So the purpose of the audit would be that, Sylvia, you're not putting money into your child's stable account, investing it, making a bunch of money, and then taking it back out for your own purposes. That's why audits would exist. So if the IRS audited, you would have to be able to produce, or your agency would have to be able to produce where the money was spent from the stable account to show that it was spent for the person with a disability's needs.
Okay, so like I do understand the rent and the utilities and furniture. What about if the client wants to go on a vacation?
It's the number one question that we get about qualified disability expenses. So thanks for lining me up to answer that question right now. So a qualified disability expense is what a stable account is allowed to be used on. Qualified disability expense. And some people are like, oh, there's the catch. We can't get our money out because it has to be for a qualified disability expense. Well, the definition of a qualified disability expense is any expense for the person with a disability that helps to maintain or improve their health, independence, or quality of life. So the number one question we get about qualified disability expenses is, can I go on vacation? Here's how I respond to that. I don't give a yes or no answer, Sylvia. I know you want me to.
Yeah, I do.
I say it's up to each person to justify that. So I spent time as a case manager. So I know how to write language that passes all the tests, right? That says the right things. So I wouldn't say that I went on vacation for fun. I would say that the person with a disability went on vacation as a planning process to expand their understanding of a community beyond their usual community, to help them with the focus of having an activity to look forward to to go outside of or travel outside of their normal community to help with socialization, even to enjoy the time away, because health, independence, or quality of life, a vacation can meet all of those needs. So you would have to be able to justify it. So the reason why I say I don't have a magic list of yes or no is because every person's needs are different. Every person's justification for an expense is different. I had one father ask me, can I buy music CDs for my son with a disability? And I said, well, explain how music CDs meet the health, independence, or quality of life. And he said, well, the provider takes him into the community to go to music stores where they can purchase the CDs. So we have community involvement. He talks about his music with all of his friends and family. So we have socialization. And the music calms him when he listens to it. So you see how music CDs would be a qualified expense for that person? So every example could be different. So I'm not going to say yes or no to vacation, but I would say that I could come up with many reasons why a vacation would meet the definition.
Yeah. Is there a board of people or who determines, say I would send in with an explanation like you've used for an example for a vacation, who would decide and how long would it take?
So there is no pre-approval and there's no post-review. The only time that would be looked at or questioned would be through an IRS audit. So the good news is that the money is available to you when you need it. You don't have to, submit a request for it, then wait for that request to be approved. It's just like a bank account in that sense.
Right.
It's available when you need it.
Okay.
And then what we also provide on each transaction is that you can put notes in there. So if you wanted to further explain something as a permanent record, you could type a note in next to the transaction and that would become a part of that transaction's permanent record. So that's an option. You don't have to use that. But if you wanted to put that in there, you could do that too.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Those are great questions.
Mr. Jackson, I have one question. I put it in the chat box, but since you can't see it, I'll just ask it. Is
Nice.
there any purchases that you absolutely cannot use the stable account for?
So the only thing that truly falls outside of that definition on its own would be buying things for other people. Because the definition, again, goes back to for the needs of the person with a disability. So even if you were looking at Christmas gifts or a birthday gift for somebody else, I would caution you on that because it's harder to justify the health, independence, or quality of life of the person with a disability when you're spending money on a gift for somebody else. So that's really the only area that I would say that's outside of that.
And then we have one more question. They said, you said that most people only have approximately up to $8,000. Why is this amount so high?
Well, I guess it depends on what you're looking at as high or low. Some would say that's a low amount because they could have up to $100,000 or $500,000 if they're not concerned about SSI. The primary use of a stable account has been for people who just want to safeguard the money that's above and beyond the $2,000 resource limit. So the money that they would have gone out and just spent down to stay under the $2,000. But stable accounts are also transactional, which means people use them. So the average account balance at $8,000 doesn't mean that that's all that they've put in. It means that they've put in money and taken out money for expenses. So that's why that balance at $8,000 is understandable, is because it's transactional and it's not about what I call generational wealth. So I know that there's parents listening in on this. Some parents are thinking, well, I could put, lots and lots of money in there. I could leave my life insurance policy, and when it's cashed out, it could go into the stable account. Well, that is where a special needs trust would be a great tool, because a special needs trust can have unlimited amounts of money. It can take in even non-cash assets such as a house, a car, jewelry, life insurance policies, anything like that. So special needs trusts are great for generational wealth, to leave a lot of money. A stable account is good for those little amounts of money that are going to be used for during the life of the person with a disability. So that's a really great opportunity to talk about the two tools, special needs trust and stable account. So the special needs trust does not have the ability to be accessed by the person with a disability. It is controlled by a trustee. And that's significantly different than the stable account, because again, the stable account, one of the great things about it is it can be used by the person with a disability. So to Sylvia's point, you don't have to ask for the funds like you do in a trust. In a trust, you have to ask for the funds, they have to be approved, then paid out. That process can be a lengthy process. Stable account, the funds can be available same day. So big difference between those two, but sometimes you want those controls in place. Sometimes having a trustee as the one overseeing the account and the time delay in the approval process can be an advantage to protecting those funds. So the stable account and special needs trust are great complementary tools to each other. Here's why. The special needs trust can be funded with any amount of funds, but it can be transferred in small amounts to the stable account. So let's say that a parent is planning for their child's future. They have a life insurance policy of $100,000. When they die, their child is going to get $100,000. If that $100,000 was given directly to the child with a disability, it's going to be counted as a resource. They're going to lose their benefits. They're going to have to spend it all down to get their benefits back. That's not what you want to happen with the money that you're leaving for your child. So leaving it to a third-party trust would be good planning. But you want your child to have some access to those funds. Well, the third-party trust can fund the stable account, and then the spending can happen out of the stable account. So it makes the stable account the vehicle or the spending tool of the trust. The two tools working together for the best benefit of the individual. Now, do you have to have both tools? The answer is no. Can you use both tools? Depending on what you're trying to accomplish, the answer is yes. You may want to consider both tools. Oftentimes people ask me, which should I have, a special needs trust or a stable account? I say yes. It just depends on what your goal is. So there are professionals that talk about special needs trust. I'm not a special needs trust attorney. I know quite a bit about them, but I always partner with somebody about trusts, let them talk about trust. I talk about stable account. So I would encourage even the county board that if you want to have more information, if you haven't already done so, to invite somebody to come and talk about trusts and that topic alone. It's a great topic. And I assure you that they will also mention able accounts when they talk about trust, just like I'm mentioning trust when I talk about stable account.
And then we did have somebody who said this is like funding a first party trust, meaning Medicaid payback. May a beneficiary be added in case funds exceed Medicaid payback?
Yeah, let's talk about that for just a minute. Thanks for bringing up the term Medicaid payback. And I apologize that the PowerPoint is still not on the screen. For whatever reason, I am not going to be able to get to it. My computer is completely locked except this webinar right now. So I'm just going to stay on the webinar. I will send that to you afterwards though. George, Ashley, I'll send it to you guys. You can email it out to the people who participated if you've got a list here of who's on the webinar. Make that a resource that you can send out to anybody. And again, if we need to re-record this for your archives, I'm happy to do that because that's my apologies on that.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. But let's answer the question then about Medicaid payback. So Medicaid payback exists outside of ABLE accounts. Medicaid payback is something that Medicaid does. So they look to a person's remaining assets after they die and ask for money to be paid back to the Medicaid system. Some people say paid back to the state. It's the state Medicaid system for the value of services that were provided through Medicaid. It's called Medicaid payback because Medicaid services are being offered free of charge as a public benefit to those who need it. So if they have money when they die, Medicaid says, well, we want back some of what we've paid for you to receive all of those services. So the stable account becomes a part of the person's estate when they pass, and Medicaid can say, we want money that was left in the stable account for some of the Medicaid services that were provided. However, there are some safeguards in place that protect the stable account from being drawn from first for Medicaid. The stable account can first pay for all outstanding expenses of the person who is now deceased. So that's medical expenses, any other type of expenses they incurred while they were alive, as well as funeral and burial. So a stable account can pay for funeral and burial. We know that funeral and burial can be thousands of dollars. The average account, stable account balance right now at $8,000, that could easily be exhausted paying for funeral and burial. There's nothing left for Medicaid to recover. The other protection is that Medicaid can only recover the amount of Medicaid services that have been provided since the stable account was open. So let's say that the person with a disability has received Medicaid services for the past 20 years. They open their stable account today, they pass away 10 years from today. Medicaid can only recover for the value of services from today forward, not for the Medicaid services of the past. So those safeguards are all in place. But we do want people to understand that any remaining balance in the stable account could be paid back to Medicaid. Now, if there is no Medicaid recovery or the stable account amount is greater than what Medicaid is seeking, the remaining amount in the stable account becomes a part of the person's estate and is handled according to either a will or the probate court. So if you don't have a will, the probate court is what determines where your estate goes, how your estate is managed. So some people have said to me, oh, great, now I have to get a will. Well, I'm sorry for the good problem that you have money and you have to decide where you want your money to go. But yes, if you have a stable account and you expect that there will be money there after you're gone, then you might want to consider having documents in place that say where your estate should go.
Frame of mind to do that.
Sylvia?
Like most of our people are not in the right state of mind to make a will. How do we handle that?
Sylvia, that's a good question. I'm comfortable answering it. If anybody from the county board also wants to jump in, feel free to. But we would probably look at the ability of that person. And if they do not have the ability to make a will, understood, then we would look to the team to help in that process. So if the person is incapable of making decisions for themselves, they probably already have somebody in place that's helping with that anyway, like a guardian. So the guardian would be the one who would be involved in making those decisions regarding a will.
So if one of my people die, what do I do? What's the first thing? Do I notify who?
Okay, so Sylvia, I'm going to clarify. When you say one of my people, are you an agency provider? Are you a parent?
No, I'm an agent, and I have right now about 12 accounts.
Okay, so what you would do is you would contact us, contact our customer service and let us know that the stable account owner has passed away, has become deceased. What we do is we freeze the account, but then we work with the person who's managing the account to make sure you still have access to being able to pay outstanding bills, pay for funeral and burial, those things. We also help you, we're especially close here in Ohio, to be able to contact the Medicaid office. It's actually the Attorney General's office who handles Medicaid recovery. So we provide you with the contact information to contact Medicaid recovery and see if there's going to be recovery out of the stable account. Once it's determined, then we either make a payment to Medicaid or we release the funds to the estate. But the quick answer to your question is contact our customer service.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Jackson, I don't know if you know the answer to this. When my father passed away, the funeral home contacted Social Security.
Yeah.
Is that something the funeral home would do? Would they contact the stable account? Would they contact Medicaid, or is that up to the representative payee and the authorized rep?
Yeah, typically it's going to be up to the representative payee or the authorized rep. And here's why. The funeral home, when they contact Social Security, it's because every person with or without a disability has a Social Security number. So the death is reported as just a natural process. So funeral homes don't know who has Medicaid, who has stable accounts, all of that. So we do leave it up to the team or the authorized legal representative to give us notice. And you know what we've really seen, Maggie, Some cases where a person passed away like a year ago and then they go, oh, we forgot to notify stable account. They just got an email or a tax form or something like that. They contact us a year later. We still work with those situations, but the sooner the better, obviously.
Do you know the approximate time from the time of death until the estate could be settled?
That's really a probate court type of an answer. And that varies even county to county on probate courts. But oftentimes, and I know this even from a personal side, it can take over a year for everything to clear out. Just because some bills come at on an annual basis, taxes being filed, that type of thing, it could take over a full year for the estate to close out.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, you guys have really been helping me to get through the slides, even without having the slides. A couple other things that I'm going to continue to hit on. We have customer service, and we're very happy about offering customer service as a resource to people who use stable accounts. So our website, stableaccount.com, very easy website to remember, stableaccount.com, has a help page on it. That help page has our 1-800 number, has our email address on there. You can call us from 9 a.m. until 8 p.m. and talk to a customer service representative. That's helpful whether you're enrolling somebody into an account, whether you have a question during enrollment or when you're using it or paying expenses. Our customer service staff have access to the accounts where they can log in and check account balances and transactions and all of that type of information. If you were to call me and ask about an account, I don't have access to that. I'm happy I don't have access to that. It's called confidential private information. So I don't have access to all that type of information, but I can answer general questions about the program itself. So customer service is a great resource for you. Our website has everything from the PowerPoint presentation that I can't show today for some reason, through many other forms that we have on there in case you're wondering how to do something or it needs a form. Our forms are on our website, graphics that are on there. So if you wanted to share this with like parent groups, or if Sylvia is a provider, if you want to share with individuals you serve, we have electronic flyers that are on there. What is a stable account? Fact sheets that are on there. So a good resource. Again, this is being recorded today. This current webinar, we'll decide whether or not we want to re-record and have a PowerPoint version alongside it. But one way or another, there'll be a recording on the county board's resources, where we can share this more broadly with other families, other people that you serve. So the resources are a great tool for you. We're here to be alongside you through the process and helping to make sure that you're doing things right. We'll answer your questions, or we'll make up an answer. Just kidding.
Yeah.
We'll make sure the answer is right. But we're pretty passionate about what we do to help people save money. And that's much different than other programs, because when you call, you're going to get to talk to somebody. We pride ourselves on answering those questions and not just having you go to a voicemail and never hearing back from us. So Sylvia, it looked like you raised your hand one more time.
Yeah. Do you know anything about filling out the forms for job and family, like once a year, whenever we have to redo their food stamps and things? How do I have to mention the stable account?
Yeah, so they should actually ask you that question during the redetermination process, or on the form, there will be a line. It'll say ABLE account. It won't say stable, it'll say ABLE, because JFS is a federal program. And so federally, we are an ABLE account program. It'll ask if the individual has an ABLE account, and they're also allowed to ask how much is in that account. But don't worry, because it doesn't matter how much is in the account, they can't count it as a resource. So it's not going to impact their eligibility, but they are allowed to ask you that. What they cannot ask you is to see all the transactions and to review each one of those transactions for any purpose. That's not under their authority. That's under the IRS authority.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Are there other questions?
Mhm.
Okay, well, we've been at it for about an hour now, which is usually about the time it takes to really provide a good deep look into stable account. What I know is you'll probably think of something as soon as the webinar ends, think of another question. That's okay. Again, our customer service is there to help. The county board has my contact information. You can work with them to ask a question and they can get it to me as well. And we'll get an answer together back to you. We'll talk offline about how we want to follow up to the presentation with any resources. So Maggie, Ashley, George will make some decisions on that. But I really appreciate just the opportunity to talk with the audience about it. The more people that know about it, the more people can take advantage of it. So many times people are still saying, I've heard of it, but I'm not sure I quite understand it. Our job is to help with people understanding it. So hopefully you walk away from tonight going, this is the best Zoom meeting we've ever had. It might have been 1 point higher if we had the PowerPoint, but you know, I got to display my knowledge of it without any guidance, any resource alongside me to help with that. So it's just been a one-on-one conversation, like my living room to your living room. But hopefully it's been educational for you. Thanks to everybody for being here tonight, and we'll touch base hopefully live in person sometime in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
All
Did
right,
you
good
want
night.
me and Ashley to stay on?
Yeah, if you will, for just a minute, we can stop recording and have that
Okay.
conversation.
Perfect.
Thank you again for all your time. It was very informative, and I think it's going to help a lot of parents. So we truly do appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.